Have you ever stopped to think that sometimes the greatest act of love isn't holding on, but letting go? It may sound counterintuitive, right? But when a woman who truly loves decides to break the spiritual bond, something profound happens, and it's not what you might expect. It's not just a breakup or an ordinary loss. It's a silent calling that stirs the roots of the soul, a spiritual awakening that challenges everything once believed about love, attachment, and connection. Many say that, love is fighting until the end, but what if I told you that true love doesn't beg or despair? That it transforms, evolves, and above all, respects each person's timing? In this video, you'll discover what really happens when the feminine energy steps away, the signs that begin to show up in the relationship, and how this can become a turning point, one that neither he nor you ever saw coming. Get ready to see love through a new lens, to understand how the masculine responds to the absence of the feminine, and how a spiritual awakening can arise for both from this unexpected silence. Because when she chooses to let go, what comes next may be the greatest miracle, the rebirth of the twin flame in its truest form. Sign 1, when the feminine energy withdraws, the silent impact that changes everything. No one notices it at first, but the day a woman stops insisting, the universe around her shivers ever so slightly. It's subtle. It may seem like nothing has changed, but inside, everything is already shifting. The feminine energy, which once quietly filled his emptiness with presence, affection, and hope, now pulls back. It's not revenge, and it's not coldness, it's spiritual exhaustion. The spiritual connection begins to vibrate at a different frequency, and he, even without understanding it, feels that something precious has slipped away. That's when the energetic field shifts. Where there was once spontaneous giving, now there is silence. Where there were messages, calls, and concern, there is only absence. And this absence holds a power that her presence no longer carried, the power of impact. It's as if the air becomes heavier, laughter rarer, and time starts to drag. What happens when a twin flame steps away isn't just physical distance, it's a raw stage of spiritual awakening, one that will only be refined through the pain of late recognition. This detachment may seem external, but it is born within. It's when she realizes that staying there meant continuing to wound herself, and silently, without warning, she turns inward. Often, she can't even explain it, she just feels that something inside her has closed itself off from what refuses to grow. And then the domino effect begins. He feels an emptiness he can't quite name. But this emptiness isn't just longing. It's something deeper. It's her absence triggering his awakening, even if he doesn't know it yet. And that's when something powerful begins to unfold. Sign 2, self-love is the new miracle. What happens when you stop sacrificing yourself? She spent so much time trying to keep the spiritual connection alive that she forgot what it meant to feel peace within herself. Feminine energy, by nature, is giving, but when out of balance, it sacrifices itself to the very last drop, believing that this is love. But love isn't supposed to hurt all the time. And when she starts looking at herself in the mirror with kindness, when she begins to realize she deserves more than crumbs, the miracle begins. Self-love starts to bloom like a garden she finally commits to watering. This spiritual awakening doesn't come with fireworks, it comes with silence, reading, self-care, a good cup of tea at night, and the courage to say no with grace. It's when she gently chooses her own company that her vibration begins to shift. There's no longer space to beg for validation, because now she nurtures herself from within. And here's the curious part, the more she aligns with her own truth, the more he begins to feel her absence. Because her absence triggered his awakening. And it stirs something in him that even he doesn't understand. Instead of giving endlessly without receiving, she begins to write a new chapter in an invisible book titled, Me, First. It's not a book you find in bookstores, but in the quiet moments between her days. Each page is written through simple actions, refusing crumbs, choosing silence over drama, going for a walk with no destination, allowing herself to laugh alone. The twin flame still exists, but it's no longer the priority. It's now a reflection. And that reflection only appears when her inner light begins to shine again. Sign 3, the emptiness he feels when you disappear isn't longing. It's a spiritual awakening. When feminine energy withdraws, what he feels isn't just missing her, it's a deep inner calling. It's as if something inside him begins to collapse, so that something greater can be born. He's not simply longing for her, he's being confronted with her absence in his soul, a wound that can't be healed with words or messages. This is the turning point, the spiritual awakening that happens in the silence of her absence, where he must look inward and ask himself who he truly is without her energy by his side. Many men don't understand this feeling. They confuse the emptiness with neediness or desire, but the truth is something else entirely. The absence of the feminine makes the masculine respond in unexpected ways, often with fear, anger, or denial. But this reaction is part of the growth process. He begins to recognize that the empty space within is actually an invitation to evolve, to awaken his own strength and true masculine energy. It's in that moment that what once felt like loss transforms into opportunity, an opportunity to reconnect with himself. It's like he's in a dark room, so used to the constant light of her presence, and suddenly, the light goes out. At first, he tries to light candles, turn on his phone, look for external answers. But slowly, he realizes he must learn to walk in the dark, to develop his own inner light. Her absence is not punishment. It's an invitation to deep transformation, one that many men only experience when the twin flame steps away. And that is a lesson most only learned by feeling the emptiness that true spiritual awakening brings. Sign 4, she didn't close herself off to love, she opened herself to herself. When feminine energy withdraws, many assume she's closed herself off to love, but the truth is quite the opposite, she simply made space for herself. This movement is a deep invitation to self-discovery, a courageous step out of the cycle of emotional dependence and into her own growth. It's not about rejecting the other, but about accepting that the most urgent and transformative love is self-love. And it's in this space of inner nurturing that the true twin flame begins to shine with renewed intensity. She's not distant because she doesn't want to love, but because she finally understood that loving without reciprocity is a slow erosion of the soul. Her absence isn't a wall meant to keep love out, it's a bridge that reconnects her to her essence, her power, and her sacred feminine energy. It's as if she removed the blindfold that kept her from seeing her true worth. Now, she walks with confidence, knowing that the real reunion can only happen when love begins from within. This is the spiritual awakening within a relationship that many still mistake for coldness. And the most fascinating part is that this opening to herself not only strengthens her, it shifts the entire dynamic of the relationship. It's as if the feminine energy, once drained, is now reborn like a river flowing again with purpose and strength. This transformation stirs something unexpected in the masculine, because she's no longer the same. She's more whole, more radiant, more free. And this new version of her invites, without needing to say a word, a deeper, more balanced, more spiritual connection. Little does he know that her transformation is about to awaken what he is meant to become. Sign 5, the woman he lost is stronger than ever. When she steps away, it's not an act of weakness, quite the opposite, it's the rebirth of feminine energy in its most powerful form. The woman he lost is no longer the one who gave herself away without limits, she has become someone who knows herself deeply and values her own space and time. This strength didn't appear overnight, it emerged through a continuous process of self-discovery and healing, transforming her into a force of nature, ready to experience love in a more conscious and fulfilling way. She learned that letting go doesn't mean giving up, it means setting herself free. And in that freedom, she found fertile ground for personal growth. Her absence isn't emptiness, it's a space now filled with self-worth and renewed energy. Instead of clinging to the past or begging for attention, she throws herself into new projects, passions, and connections that reflect her evolution. She may start meditating, dancing, writing, or investing her time in women's circles that share the same spiritual awakening, building a support network that strengthens her even more. It's powerful to witness how this renewed energy shifts the dynamic between the masculine and the feminine. He feels her strength in every gesture, in every unspoken word, and even if he doesn't express it openly, he begins to realize the impact of what he has lost. The twin flame, once a delicate and vulnerable energy, now stands radiant and commanding, ready to rewrite the story, whether with him or simply with herself. And the strength she has claimed is what will guide her next steps on this path. Sign 6, giving without reciprocity, the spiritual price she was silently paying. She gave without expecting, offered without receiving, believing that this was true love. Feminine energy, naturally generous, often loses itself in unbalanced giving, especially when there's no reciprocity to sustain harmony. This one-sided devotion doesn't just drain her physically, it leaves deep marks on the soul, a silent spiritual exhaustion she carries alone, often without realizing the full cost she's paying. It's as if her light is consumed by a candle burning at both ends, until it goes out. This draining cycle affects not only the relationship but her entire path. When the twin flame pulls away, she finally begins to understand that sacrificing too much isn't love, it's self-abandonment. It's as if she had been carrying an invisible weight, one that eroded her feminine energy and blocked her spiritual awakening within the relationship. She needed to step back, to survive, to reclaim her balance, and to begin reconnecting with her sacred inner space. From the silence of this price paid in secret, a powerful transformation begins to rise. She learns to honor her own worth, to set boundaries, and to protect her energy. This awareness is accompanied by simple practices, meditation, breathing exercises, and even creating daily rituals that reinforce self-love. By breaking free from giving without return, she takes the first step toward rebuilding her energy and preparing for a love that truly reflects her light. Sign 7, the domino effect of her absence. When a woman stops trying, his world falls apart. When feminine energy stops trying to keep the connection alive, what once seemed stable begins to collapse like a house of cards. It's a silent yet relentless domino effect. He, who once relied on her constant presence and effort, suddenly feels everything falling apart, not just in the relationship, but within himself. It's as if the ground that once held his emotions and identity starts to give way, and he no longer knows where to stand. Her absence isn't just physical, it's a deep energetic rupture that can't be ignored. This moment is painful, because he realizes that everything he took for granted was, in fact, held together by her unconditional giving. And when that foundation disappears, the emptiness becomes undeniable. But interestingly, this collapse brings a rare opportunity for reconstruction, an invitation for him to awaken to his own responsibility and masculine energy. After all, the masculine responds to the absence of the feminine in many ways, but real transformation only happens when that absence forces him to look inward, face his fears, and mature. And that's where the practical and spiritual impact of her absence reveals its full force. He may try to fill the void with distractions, but nothing replaces the true awakening that comes from the realization of what was lost. That's why this domino effect is not the end, it's the beginning of a new chapter. A period of deep transformation that will only be fully understood once he accepts that love cannot sustain itself alone. But what happens when he finally realizes the woman is gone? Let's find out. Sign 8, she was his spiritual portal, but he only realized it after she was gone. She carried an energy that went far beyond the physical, she was a spiritual portal that connected him to a deeper dimension of himself. Many times, he couldn't grasp the depth of that connection, because he had grown used to her constant presence, the feminine energy that supported and nourished their union. What he didn't know was that this connection was not eternal if taken for granted. The twin flame, in its essence, demands respect and reciprocity, and when that's missing, the portal quietly closes. The spiritual awakening he experiences in her absence is a call to look beyond appearances and reconnect with his own essence. Her absence is not punishment, it is a mirror reflecting his role in the relationship and in his own path of evolution. Only when she's gone does he realize that what seemed like mere companionship was, in truth, a deep and sacred connection, a rare opportunity for mutual growth that he can no longer ignore. This late realization is painful, but necessary. He begins to understand that the woman he lost was not just a partner, but a channel for his spiritual awakening and emotional development. Now, without that portal, he must find his own inner light, no longer depending on the feminine energy that once filled his empty spaces. This is the moment when his twin flame truly begins to move, activated by her absence. And that may be the beginning of a real and lasting transformation. Sign 9, she's no longer available, and that's awakening the man he needs to become. When she decides to no longer be available, it's not a sign of defeat, but of evolution. As feminine energy steps back, it creates a space where the masculine is challenged to awaken to his own essence and responsibility. He, who once relied on her constant presence, is now called to act, to look within and become the man his soul truly needs to be. This absence triggers a change that goes far beyond the relationship. It's an internal transformation that shakes the deepest structures of his being. The masculine's reaction to the feminine absence can be confusing, often full of resistance and even denial. However, this confrontation is essential for him to recognize his own flaws, fears, and limitations. Her absence is not abandonment, but an invitation for him to reinvent himself, to learn how to carry his own energy with maturity and awareness. This is the essence of spiritual awakening in a relationship, a process of mutual growth where both are called to evolve, even when distance seems to separate them. It's remarkable to see how this awakening impacts their dynamic. She, strengthened by self-love, becomes a mirror for him, reflecting what he needs to transform to rise to the level of the connection they once had. Her absence is not the end, but the trigger that activates his true potential as a man, partner, and spiritual being. And this journey, though painful, may be the path that leads both of them to a truer, more conscious, and deeper union. Her absence is not punishment, but an invitation to self-awakening. When she chooses to let go, she surrenders to self-love, and that, in turn, awakens in him the need to reinvent himself. Thus, the cycle of self-love and spiritual connection strengthens, paving the way for a relationship based not on dependence, but on balance and truth. So, are you ready to embark on this transformative journey? Sign 10, true love doesn't beg, it transforms. True love is not one that begs for attention, nor is it made of crumbs or anxious waiting. It is born from the strength of self-love and the awareness of the value each person carries within themselves. When a woman steps away, she is not begging for love, she is creating space for transformation to happen, so that both can grow and reunite on a new frequency, more aligned with each one's essence. True love acts as a catalyst, changing what needs to be changed and letting go of what should remain. This transformation is neither simple nor immediate, but deep and lasting. It is a process in which the twin flame reveals itself in all its complexity, demanding that each person face their own shadows and limitations. The spiritual connection, once seen as an invisible and unchangeable bond, becomes a dynamic bridge that depends on mutual growth. Love that begs is fragile, love that transforms is powerful, because it is born from freedom, respect, and personal evolution. It's time to ask yourself, how far are you willing to go for love, and for yourself? Is continuing to insist on something that doesn't flow really love, or just fear of change? What are you doing today to awaken your own inner flame and transform your life? These questions aren't easy, but they are essential for anyone who truly wants to grow. Remember, true love doesn't beg, doesn't suffocate, and doesn't sacrifice in vain. It happens when each person values themselves and evolves, when the spiritual connection is strengthened by respect and self-love. And you, are you ready to take on this role in your story? To transform what seemed like an end into a powerful new beginning. If this content touched you, how about liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and turning on notifications so you don't miss the next chapters of this journey? Here, we'll uncover the mysteries of the twin flame and spiritual awakening, because your evolution deserves to be closely followed. Shall we?